The phone rang with a cheerful voice I didn't recognize, but the words that followed cut through me like glass. "Hi, this is Megan from Forever Weddings. I just wanted to confirm that your family decided to remove you from the guest list. But don't worry, the $75,000 deposit is safe and being used for the big day." My heart froze. My own sister's wedding. My family. My name erased. But my money, the money I had sacrificed, saved and given to help her dream wedding come true, was still there, untouched, like it belonged more to them than to me. I couldn't breathe. I remembered every overtime shift, every weekend I skipped outings, every time I told myself it would be worth it because family comes first. I believed helping her meant we were closer, that I was doing something meaningful. And now, I was disposable, not just forgotten, deliberately cut out. Questions hit me in waves. How long had they planned this? Did my sister know? Did she approve of this betrayal? Or worse, was she the one who insisted on it? And what about the deposit, my deposit? Did they think I was too weak to fight back, too loyal to call them out? Anger roared inside me, but beneath it was a deeper wound, the kind only family can carve. I wasn't just uninvited, I was replaced. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. When family chooses betrayal, it is far more vicious than any enemy's attack. Because they know exactly where your heart is. And they don't. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, one of those quiet moments in the middle of the week when nothing seems extraordinary. I had just come home from work, still holding my bag and keys, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Normally, I let numbers I don't recognize go to voicemail, but something made me swipe to answer. The voice on the other end was bright and overly polite, the kind of tone people use when they're trying to mask uncomfortable news with fake cheer. "Hi, this is Megan from Forever Weddings. I just wanted to confirm that your family decided to remove you from the guest list. But don't worry, the $75,000 deposit is safe and being used for the big day." At first, I thought I had misheard her. The words didn't make sense, like pieces of a puzzle shoved into the wrong box. "Removed me," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Megan, unaware of the landmine she had stepped on, continued casually. "Yes, the update came through this morning. Your sister's wedding is still set for December, but your invitation has been cancelled. I just needed to make sure you were aware." My throat tightened so much I could barely swallow. My own sister's wedding. My family's event. A milestone I had sacrificed for, financially and emotionally. And they had not only erased me from the guest list but had left my $75,000 sitting comfortably in the planner's hands, as if it belonged to them. I pressed the phone tighter against my ear, trying to ground myself in the reality of the moment, but all I felt was heat rising in my chest. Megan continued with her rehearsed lines about no worries and everything secured, and I wanted to scream at her that this wasn't some minor administrative error. It was betrayal. I cut her off, thanked her through clenched teeth, and hung up before my anger cracked through my voice. For several minutes, I just stood in the hallway, bag slipping from my shoulder, keys clattering to the floor, staring blankly at the wall. My mind flooded with memories of every sacrifice I had made for this wedding. I remembered the late nights at the office, staying for overtime shifts to put aside extra money. I remembered the weekends I declined trips with friends because I was saving, telling myself that it would all be worth it when I saw Emma walk down the aisle in her dream venue. I had convinced myself that giving her this wedding was more than just financial. It was symbolic. It meant I was supporting her, proving that family mattered above all else. And now, it seemed family only mattered when they were on the receiving end. I paced the living room, my thoughts spinning. How long had they been planning this? Was Emma the one who decided to cut me out, or was it my parents' idea? Did they all agree, nodding around the dinner table as they erased my name from the guest list, like I was nothing but a problem to be avoided? Or had Emma herself, my sister whom I had loved and protected for years, been the one to deliver the order? "Take her off. We don't want her there." The questions came in waves, each one heavier than the last. But beneath all the anger was something rawer, more painful, hurt. This wasn't just a wedding I was being uninvited from. This was my family, declaring that my presence was less valuable than my money. I thought back to when Emma first told me she was engaged. Her eyes had sparkled with excitement, and she confessed she wanted a big wedding but didn't know how she and her fiancé could afford it. Without hesitation, I offered to help. I still remember the way her face lit up, her arms wrapping tightly around me as she said, "You're the best sister in the world." I believed her then. I believed that this was love, that this was gratitude. I didn't know it would twist into entitlement, that my generosity would become their leverage to discard me once they had what they wanted. By the time I finally sat down on the couch, my legs trembling beneath me, the reality had set in. I wasn't just uninvited. I was intentionally excluded. This wasn't an accident or oversight. Someone, likely Emma herself, had signed off on this decision. And the deposit, my deposit, was sitting there as if it belonged to them. They must have thought I was too loyal, too soft to ever fight back. Maybe they believed I would swallow the humiliation, shed some tears, and quietly let them take everything. Maybe they counted on me being the same dependable sister I had always been. The fixer, the provider, the one who gave without question. But in that moment, sitting alone with my chest tight and my eyes burning, something inside me shifted. I realized that I had spent my whole life bending over backward for my family, believing that my worth was tied to how much I gave. And now, they had proven that no matter how much I sacrificed, it would never be enough to buy me respect. My sister had chosen to betray me. My parents had chosen to side with her. And if I didn't stand up now, I would be teaching them that their betrayal had no consequence. The tears finally came then, not soft and quiet but heavy, angry sobs that shook my body. I cried for the overtime hours, for the missed outings, for the nights I had stayed awake worrying about whether Emma's wedding would be perfect. I cried for the love I thought I had from my family, the belief that blood meant loyalty. And most of all, I cried because I knew something had broken that could never be fixed. Trust, once shattered, doesn't mend. It remains cracked forever, no matter how carefully you try to piece it together. When the sobs subsided, a strange calm washed over me. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but it was joined by a new clarity. They had underestimated me. They thought I was powerless because I was kind. They thought I would let them keep both the wedding and my silence. But they were wrong. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the quiet giver in the background. I was going to take back what was mine, not hesitate to stab it. And as the sun set that evening, I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, rehearsing what I would say when I called my parents and Emma. My hands still shook, but not from fear anymore. It was anticipation. Because this time I wasn't asking for respect. I was demanding it. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the phone call over and over. Hearing Megan's cheerful voice deliver the knife to my chest as if she were announcing a dinner reservation. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma in her white gown, smiling at everyone but me, while my parents clapped and cheered as if my existence had been neatly erased. The betrayal replayed in loops until dawn crept through the blinds, bathing my room in pale gray light. By morning, the fog of disbelief had cleared, and all that remained was a steady pulse of anger. If I didn't confront them now, if I didn't demand answers, I knew the silence would eat me alive. Called my parents first. My mother picked up, her voice weary, as though she had been expecting this. "Honey," she said softly, "I was going to call you." I clenched my jaw, trying to hold back the flood. "Is it true?" I asked, skipping pleasantries. "Did you and Dad agree to cut me out of Emma's wedding?" There was a pause, heavy and suffocating, before she sighed. "It's not what you think. We just wanted to keep things peaceful." Emma felt. Emma felt what? Snap. That I didn't belong there. After I paid for the venue. After I handed over $75,000 so she could have her fairy tale wedding. And you both just agreed. Her silence was answer enough. Then my father's voice cut in, firm but distant, the way he always sounded when he was done with a conversation before it even started. "It's her day," he said flatly. "We have to respect her wishes." My chest tightened, fury clawing at my throat. Respect her wishes. What about respecting me? What about respecting the fact that I paid for this wedding? Do my wishes mean nothing? My mother tried to soothe, saying it wasn't about the money, that it was about family harmony. But her words only fanned the flames. Family harmony. I repeated, bitter laughter spilling out. Do you hear yourself? You think harmony is cutting me out like I'm some stain on your perfect day while happily pocketing my money? The conversation spiraled, their defenses crumbling into excuses, each one weaker than the last. My father said I was overreacting, that weddings were stressful, that Emma deserved to feel comfortable on her big day. My mother insisted they still loved me, that this wasn't about choosing sides, though everything about it screamed otherwise. Every word from them was a knife twisting deeper, proving they hadn't fought for me at all. They had chosen convenience over loyalty, silence over standing up for their daughter. And in that moment, I understood something that hurt even more than Emma's betrayal. My parents didn't see me as equal. I was the dependable one, the fixer, the wallet, the peacekeeper. And when push came to shove, they would sacrifice me to keep Emma smiling. When the call ended, I was shaking. Not from fear this time, but from the raw, electric current of betrayal coursing through my veins. I paced my apartment, muttering to myself, my hands balled into fists. I couldn't let this stand. If I stayed quiet, they would win. They would use me, discard me, and then smile for photos as though I never existed. That thought was unbearable. Later that afternoon, Emma called. Her name flashing on my screen sent a cold chill through me, but I answered anyway, determined not to let her think I was too weak to face her. "Hey," she said cautiously, her voice unusually sweet, like sugar-coating poison. "I guess you've heard by now." I let out a harsh laugh. "Heard that my own sister cut me out of her wedding?" "Yeah, I heard." She sighed, the sound rehearsed, like she had prepared her excuses in advance. "Look, it's not personal. I just want the day to be stress-free. You know how things have been between us." My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. "Not personal. Emma, I gave you $75,000. I made your dream wedding possible. And you're telling me my presence is the problem?" Her voice hardened, the sweetness gone. "You didn't have to give that money. I didn't ask for it." I almost choked on the rage that surged through me. "You didn't ask. Are you kidding me? You cried to me about how you couldn't afford the wedding you wanted. You let me believe I was helping you. You let me believe I mattered. And now you're rewriting history." She stayed quiet for a beat before replying coldly. "This is my day. I won't let anyone ruin it. Not even you." Her words hit harder than any slap. My own sister, the girl I had shared a bedroom with as children, the one I had defended from bullies in middle school, the one I had stayed up with during her first heartbreak, was telling me I wasn't just excluded, I was the threat. A ruin to her perfect day. I could barely breathe as I asked, "And the money? Do you plan on giving it back? Or is betrayal included in the package?" Emma's laugh was short and sharp. "The deposit is already with the planner. It's not like you can just take it back. It's done." When the call ended, I sat in silence, my hands trembling, not from weakness but from the sheer magnitude of her arrogance. She truly believed she could take everything from me. My money, my presence, my dignity, and I would just accept it. That was the moment something solidified inside me, like steel hardening in fire. If she thought I was powerless, she was about to learn how wrong she was. That night, I gathered every receipt, every bank statement, every email trail showing I had been the one to pay. My hands moved with precision, not hesitation. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about reclaiming my voice, my worth, my place. For years, I had let Emma and my parents define me as the dependable one, the giver who never asked for anything in return. But not anymore. They had taken me for granted one last time. As I slid the neatly organized papers into a folder, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. The betrayal still hurt, it would always hurt, but now it was fuel. They wanted me erased. Instead, I was going to make myself unforgettable. And as I closed my eyes that night, exhaustion finally pulling me under, I whispered a promise to myself. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up with a fire in my chest. The anger that had nearly swallowed me whole the day before had transformed into something sharper. Something with direction. If Emma thought she could cut me out and still keep the $75,000 I had bled for, she was mistaken. I wasn't going to let her or my parents treat me like I was disposable. They had counted on my silence, counted on me to shrink back into the shadows and let them carry on with their perfect little charade. But silence had gotten me nowhere. Silence had built the chains they had so comfortably bound me with. And for the first time I wanted to break them. I pulled out the folder I had assembled the night before, flipping through the neatly arranged papers. Bank transfers, email confirmations, contracts with Forever Weddings. All of it was in my name. Every single dollar that had secured the venue, the catering, and the decor had come from my account. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't some open-ended loan. It was my investment, made under the unspoken trust that I would be part of the day I had worked so hard to fund. Now that trust was gone. The more I stared at the papers, the more I realized I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting to prove that I couldn't be erased so easily. By mid-morning I had dialed Megan, the planner who had unknowingly delivered the news that detonated my world. She answered with her usual bubbly tone, probably unaware of the storm brewing on my end. "Hi, Megan. This is Sarah." I began, my voice steady. "We spoke yesterday. About my sister's wedding." There was a brief pause before she replied. "Oh, yes. Hi again. Is there something I can help with?" I drew in a breath, gripping the phone tighter. "Yes. You confirmed yesterday that my family removed me from the guest list, but I want to make something clear. The $75,000 deposit you're holding came from me. Every cent. I have the receipts to prove it. And if I'm not a guest at this wedding, then my money doesn't belong there either." Her cheerful tone faltered. "Oh, I wasn't aware of that," she admitted carefully. "From our records, the payments were linked to the contract under your sister's name." I flipped to one of the statements in my folder, my heart pounding as I read the transaction number out loud. "This is the transfer I made directly to your company's account. Came from me. Not my parents. Not my sister. Me. I can send you every single statement right now." Megan hesitated, clearly torn between the polished customer service she was trained for and the mess she had stepped into. "I'll need to review the documents," she finally said. "If the payments were made directly by you, then technically you're the client, not your family." Those words were like oxygen after drowning. Technically I was the client. That meant Emma didn't hold the power she thought she did. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the ground tilt in my favor. "I'll email you the documents today," I told Megan firmly. "And once you've reviewed them, I'll need confirmation in writing that I control that deposit." She agreed, though I could hear the unease in her voice, the awareness that she had been pulled into a family war she hadn't signed up for. I didn't care. This was bigger than her discomfort. This was about justice. After I hung up, a strange calm settled over me, but it was laced with adrenaline. I wasn't naive. I knew Emma would erupt once she realized I was pulling the rug from under her. She had grown comfortable thinking she held all the power, that I was too meek to fight back. But this wasn't about meekness anymore. This was about reclaiming the part of myself I had lost by always putting everyone else first. That evening, I sat at my laptop drafting an email to Megan. My fingers shook slightly as I attached scans of every receipt and bank transfer, each one stamped with my name. I explained in clear and professional terms that I was the financial provider, and therefore I expected to retain all contractual rights to the funds. I even CC'd the company's general email address, just to ensure there was no way this could disappear into the void. When I finally hit send, I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. For the first time, I felt like I had taken a step forward instead of drowning in their betrayal. But the calm didn't last. Less than an hour later, my phone lit up with Emma's name. My pulse quickened as I stared at it, knowing exactly why she was calling. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice came at me like a blade. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she spat. I said nothing at first, letting the silence hang, and then I replied evenly, "Taking back what's mine." Her laugh was harsh, bitter. "You're insane. You think you can just undo everything? Do you know what kind of mess you're making?" Kept my tone cold. "No, Emma. The mess was made the moment you decided my money was welcome but my presence wasn't. You don't get both. You can't erase me and still profit from me." She started to rant, calling me selfish, dramatic, even accusing me of trying to sabotage her happiness out of jealousy. That one stung. I had supported her through every phase of her life, from her college heartbreaks to her career struggles, and now she was painting me as some bitter villain. But instead of letting her words pierce me, I let them roll off. "This isn't about jealousy," I said quietly. "It's about respect. And since you don't seem to understand what that means, I'm going to teach you the hard way." She cursed at me before hanging up, and for a moment I sat there, staring at the silent phone, my heart racing. It hurt. Of course it hurt, to hear my own sister speak to me like I was the enemy. But beneath the sting was something stronger. Resolve. I wasn't the enemy. I wasn't the villain. I was the one who had finally stopped being their doormat. The next day, Megan replied to my email. Her message was cautious, filled with legal disclaimers, but the core of it made me smile through the exhaustion. After reviewing the documents, she confirmed that I was, indeed, the financial client of record. The deposit, therefore, was under my authority. She added that any changes to the contract moving forward would require my approval, not Emma's. Reading those words, I felt a rush of triumph unlike anything I had experienced before. For once, I wasn't powerless. For once, they couldn't erase me without consequence. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen, and a thought crossed my mind that almost made me laugh. Emma had tried to erase me from her wedding. But now, without me, there might not be a wedding at all. The storm came quicker than I expected. Within hours of Megan's email confirming that I now controlled the wedding deposit, my parents were blowing up my phone. First it was my mother, her voice trembling with forced calm, asking me to please reconsider. She tried to frame it as a misunderstanding, a family issue that didn't need to escalate further. "Sweetheart, this is Emma's special day. You know how emotional brides can be. Don't ruin it over something small," she pleaded, her words wrapped in guilt like a poison-laced ribbon. I let her talk until she ran out of breath, and then I said quietly, "Mom, $75,000 isn't small. Being erased from my sister's wedding isn't small. What she did was deliberate, and what you both allowed was betrayal. You can't expect me to just sit quietly while you all walk all over me." There was silence on the other end before she sighed. "We just want peace in this family." I laughed bitterly. "Peace? You don't get peace by stabbing someone in the back and then asking them not to bleed." Before she could answer, I hung up. Minutes later, my father called. His approach was different. No soft guilt, just blunt intimidation. "Sarah, you're being unreasonable," he barked. "This wedding isn't about you. It's about Emma and what she wants. Give her back the control of the deposit and stop acting like a child." My chest burned, but I refused to let him hear weakness in my voice. I am not acting like a child. I'm finally standing up for myself. For once, I'm not the one cleaning up your messes or sacrificing everything just to keep the peace. If Emma wants her wedding, she can face me. If you want to keep defending her, that's your choice. But my money isn't yours to dictate. He growled something about me being selfish before slamming the call shut. I thought I'd have a few hours of quiet after that, but Emma herself arrived at my apartment that evening, pounding on my door like the police. When I opened it, she was red-faced and shaking. Her hair frizzed from the humidity, her fury practically radiating off her skin. "You're destroying everything," she snapped the second I let her in. "Do you even realize what you're doing? You're trying to humiliate me." I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "Humiliate you? Emma, I gave you the chance to have the wedding you dreamed of. I worked myself raw to save that money, and you turned around and cut me out as if I was nothing. Do you know what humiliation feels like? It's answering a call from your wedding planner telling you you're not invited to your own sister's wedding, while your money is still funding it. She threw her hands up, pacing my living room. You always twist things to make yourself the victim. You didn't give me that money out of love. You gave it so you could control me. Well, guess what? I won't be controlled. Her voice cracked, and I could see the frustration in her eyes, but I also saw something else. Fear. She wasn't used to me standing up to her. She wasn't used to me refusing to play the role of the dependable silent sister who solved her problems without asking for anything in return. I held her gaze, refusing to flinch. This isn't about control, Emma. It's about respect. You wanted my help when it benefited you, but the moment I became inconvenient, you erased me. That's not love. That's not family. And you don't get to profit from me while discarding me like trash. Her face twisted with anger. So what, you're just going to cancel everything? Leave me without a wedding? Do you know how much embarrassment that will cause me? Her voice rose, sharp and desperate, and for a moment I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered the phone call, my parents' excuses, the way she had laughed when she said the deposit was untouchable. Any pity vanished. The embarrassment isn't mine to carry, I said firmly. If your wedding falls apart, it's because of your choices. You chose to betray me. You chose to cut me out. Actions have consequences, Emma. Maybe it's time you learned that. She glared at me, her jaw tight, and I could see the war in her eyes between pride and panic. You'll regret this, she finally hissed, her voice trembling. You'll regret ruining your own sister's happiness. I shook my head, my tone calm but icy. No, Emma. I regret ever believing that giving you everything would make you love me back. I regret letting you use me for so long. But this, finally standing up for myself, this I'll never regret. Her lips parted as if she wanted to spit something cruel, but nothing came. She turned sharply, storming out of my apartment and slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. The silence that followed was heavy but strangely liberating. For the first time I felt the weight shifting off my shoulders. My parents would call again, I knew. Emma would scream, cry, maybe even rally relatives to paint me as the villain. But I no longer cared about the image they spun. I wasn't doing this to be liked. I was doing this to finally demand the respect I deserved. For years, I had been the quiet backbone of the family, the one who carried burdens no one thanked me for. Now I was more than that. I was someone who had drawn a line in the sand and dared them to cross it. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the years I had spent trying to earn love by giving until I had nothing left. I thought about every time I had silenced my own needs to keep Emma happy, every time I had let my parents guilt me into staying quiet. And for the first time I realized something. Their love had always been conditional. Conditional on my usefulness, on my silence, on my willingness to sacrifice. But love shouldn't come with conditions. Family shouldn't mean chains. And as much as it hurt, I knew the truth. I was finally breaking free from a role that had kept me small my entire life. The deposit was mine, and with it the power was mine. Emma's wedding now hinged on me. And while part of me ached at how ugly it had all become, another part of me felt stronger than ever. I didn't know yet what I would do with that money. Cancel the wedding outright, demand repayment, or redirect it towards something for myself. But I knew this much. For once, I held the pen to write the ending of this story, and I wasn't going to let them erase me again. The wedding day arrived like a storm on the horizon, and though I wasn't anywhere near the venue, the weight of it pressed against me all morning. My phone buzzed with messages from extended relatives, some begging me to be the bigger person and let Emma have her day, others lashing out at me, parroting the story she must have spun for them, that I was bitter, jealous, vindictive. I read the words without replying, the knot in my stomach tightening but never breaking me. I had made my choice weeks earlier when Megan confirmed the deposit was legally mine. After Emma's tantrum at my apartment and my parents' endless guilt trips, I sat down one night and asked myself what I truly wanted. For years, my life had revolved around being the dependable one, the silent supporter, the fixer. I had thought sacrificing myself for my family meant love, but love hadn't been returned. It had been exploited. And so, for the first time, I chose myself. Instead of releasing the deposit or caving to their demands, I cancelled every contract attached to the wedding. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, even the string quartet Emma had cried over wanting. All of it dissolved with a few signatures and confirmation emails. The money, refunded to me over the next week, sat in my account like a symbol of reclaimed power. It wasn't just numbers. It was proof that I had finally stopped allowing them to take from me without giving anything back. I thought canceling the wedding would crush me with guilt, but as the refunds rolled in, what I felt instead was relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't dragging the weight of my family's expectations on my back. I wasn't sacrificing myself on the altar of Emma's happiness. I was free. And while my parents left angry voicemails about how I had humiliated the family, and Emma sent texts filled with venom, none of it pierced me the way it once would have. Their voices no longer held power over me. They were angry because I had broken the role they had cast me in, and without my compliance, their perfect little world had cracked. On the morning of her wedding that wasn't, I imagined Emma standing in her dress, surrounded by chaos as she realized there would be no guests, no flowers, no music, no fairy tale aisle to walk down. A small part of me mourned for the sister I had once believed in, the girl I had wanted to give everything to. But the larger part of me knew that this was the consequence of betrayal. Actions had consequences, and she had never imagined hers would catch up to her. Instead of sitting at home stewing, I chose that day to reclaim it as my own. I took myself to a small cafe on the edge of town, one I had always passed but never entered because I had been too busy rushing from one obligation to another. I ordered coffee and a pastry, sat by the window, and for the first time in years, felt the stillness of life without constant sacrifice. I watched strangers laugh over breakfast, couples share quiet smiles, children chase each other across the sidewalk. Life was happening all around me, and for once, I wasn't weighed down by the role of fixer, provider, savior. I was just me. As I sipped my coffee, I thought about what I could do with the refunded money. $75,000 was no small amount. It represented not just savings but years of my time and effort. I could put it toward a down payment on a home of my own, take the trip I had always dreamed of but never allowed myself, invest in a future that belonged solely to me. The possibilities stretched before me like an open road, and for the first time, the idea of choosing myself didn't feel selfish. Felt necessary. By afternoon, the calls from family slowed, exhaustion no doubt replacing their anger as the reality of Emma's collapsed wedding sank in. I imagined the gossip spreading among relatives, the whispers about what had happened, the blame they'd heap on me. But I realized I no longer cared about their opinions. For so long I had lived in the shadow of what my family thought of me, shaping myself into the person they needed me to be. But that person was gone. What mattered now was how I saw myself, and for once, I saw someone strong, someone who had finally broken free of a cycle that had kept her small. That evening, I walked home through quiet streets, the cool air brushing against my skin like a promise of something new. My phone buzzed one last time. It was a message from Emma, just 2 words. "I hate you." I stared at it for a moment, waiting for the old sting of her cruelty to wound me, but nothing came. Instead, I felt a wave of pity, not for myself but for her. Because in her obsession with control and appearances, she had lost not just a wedding but a sister who had once loved her fiercely. She had traded loyalty for pride, respect for temporary power, and now she stood empty-handed. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Some things don't need closure. Some things end the moment trust is broken beyond repair. When I finally crawled into bed that night, the world outside was silent, the chaos of the day tucked away into memory. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the same way I had on the night it all began, but this time there was no rage, no despair. Just peace. I realized I wasn't mourning anymore. I was moving forward. And as I closed my eyes, I knew this chapter of my life had ended not in the way I once imagined, but in the way it needed to. Emma had lost her wedding, My parents had lost their illusion of control, but I had gained something far more valuable. Myself. And that, I decided, was worth more than any fairy tale wedding could ever be. Sparkles, if this story shook you, don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Bell subscribe to Twisted Fate Chronicle for more powerful twists and untold family dramas.